Welcome, seekers of the unknown, to the Shadow Frequency. I'm Juniper, your producer, guiding you into the shadows where history and mystery collide. Tonight, host Matt Wilson dives into the enigma of Brushy Bill Roberts. Could this man who walked the earth well into the 20th century truly be the infamous outlaw Billy the Kid? Stay tuned as we unravel a tale that defies the grave.
Good evening, listeners, and welcome to the Shadow Frequency. I'm Matt Wilson, your guide through the twilight zones of history. Tonight, we're stepping into the dusty trails of the Old West to explore a question that's haunted historians and thrill seekers alike. Did Billy the Kid, the legendary gunslinger, cheat death and live on as a man named Brushy Bill Roberts? Let's saddle up and ride into the shadows. Picture this, it's 1949 in Lincoln, New Mexico. A man named William Morrison is on a mission. He's heard whispers about an old-timer named Brushy Bill Roberts who claims to be none other than Billy the Kid. The same Billy supposedly gunned down by Pat Garrett in 1881. Morrison tracks Brushy down, and what he finds is a story too wild to dismiss. Brushy Bill wasn't just some guy spinning tall tales. His knowledge of the Lincoln County War and Billy's life was uncanny. Too detailed to have been pulled from a book. He knew things only a handful of people could have known back then. Take Colonel Dudley's soldiers, for instance. Brushy said they were black when they rolled into Lincoln on July 19, 1878. Historians confirm it. But that wasn't common knowledge in 1949. He described the layout of the McSween house before it burned to a crisp, every nook and cranny. He even knew Billy wrote a letter to Governor Wallace proclaiming his innocence in James Carlisle's murder. How could an outsider know all this? Then there's the Lincoln County Courthouse. Once the Murphy Dolan Riley store, Morrison took Brushy there, and the old man walked through it like he'd lived it. He described how it looked in 1881 down to the smallest detail. He even recounted killing his guard James Bell, said the bullet hit the wall first, then ricocheted into Bell's side. And guess what? That's exactly how it happened. Brushy had keepsakes too. Among his possessions was an old scarf he claimed Delavina Maxwell gave him after his capture at Stinking Springs. He said he traded her the famous tintype of himself for it. Thing is, only posse member Jim East knew about that exchange. He mentioned it in a letter to Charlie Siringo, and it wasn't public knowledge. In the trial details, Brushy said his first indictment was for Buckshot Roberts' murder, represented by Ira Leonard, who got the case tossed out. True story, but back then almost no one digging into Billy's life knew that. Brushy's memory was a treasure chest of secrets. Hold that thought, folks. We're taking a quick break. Juniper's got something for you, and we'll be right back to dig deeper into Brushy's tale.
Hey, Shadow Frequency listeners, Juniper here. What do you think so far? Is Brushy Bill Roberts pulling the wool over our eyes, or could he really be Billy the Kid risen from the history books? Matt's just getting started, and trust me, the evidence is about to get even spookier. If you're loving this dive into the unknown, hit that like and subscribe button. Follow us on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Podbean, and all your favorite podcast directories. Also, we've launched a Patreon at patreon.com/shadowfrequency. It's brand new and we hope to grow it, so join us there to support the show. And if you want to advertise with us, you can reach out through Patreon. Stay tuned. More mysteries await.
Welcome back to the Shadow Frequency. Let's pick up where we left off. Brushy Bill's story wasn't just about obscure facts, it was personal. People who knew Billy the Kid met him and they believed him. Severo Gallegos, Jose Montoya, and Martel Abel, surviving friends of the Kid, all sat down with Brushy separately. He reminisced about old times, and all three signed affidavits saying Brushy Bill was Billy the Kid. Bill and Sam Jones, more of Billy's pals, met him too. They didn't sign anything, wanted to stay out of the spotlight, but they told Morrison they were convinced. Even William Campbell, a.k.a. Joe Hines, a notorious figure from the Lincoln County War, vouched for Brushy. Then there's this wild story from 1930. Brushy met a guy named Bob Young in Hamilton, Texas. They hit it off, and Brushy asked Young to pass a message to Jimmy McDaniel, an old Lincoln County war vet living in Round Rock. The message? The kid says hello. When Young delivered it, McDaniels looked like he'd seen a ghost. Why the fear unless Brushy was the real deal? Brushy's instincts screamed outlaw, too. In the 1940s, he was walking down a street in Hyco, Texas, when a mom yells, "Billy!" at her kid who almost got hit by a car. Witnesses say Brushy spun around, hand reaching for a gun that wasn't there. Old habits die hard, right? And in 1945, an old lawman, Henry Anthony, spotted Brushy in Hyco, called him Billy Bonnie, and told him to throw up his hands. Anthony swore till his dying day that Brushy was the kid. Science backs him up, too. In 1990, the Acton-Bovic photo study compared the famous Billy the Kid tintype to photos of Brushy at 14 and 90. The 14-year-old Brushy was a close match. The 90-year-old Brushy, a 93% match. Age and dental work explain the rest. According to Doctors Acton and Bovic, plus Brushy had every scar Billy was known to have, and then some. So what's the verdict? Did Pat Garrett kill a stand-in that night in 1881? Did Billy slip away, grow old, and resurface as Brushy Bill Roberts? The evidence is eerie, compelling, and hard to shake. Maybe the kid never really left us. He just stepped into the shadows, waiting for us to find him. This is a topic that really interests me personally, and if you'd like to learn more about it, here's a few books you could look into. Alias Billy the Kid, the book that started it all back in the 50s. Billy the Kid, an autobiography by Daniel Edwards. There's also Billy the Kid, Beyond the Grave by W.C. Jameson. Billy the Kid, The Lost Interviews by W.C. Jameson. Cold Case, Billy the Kid, Investigating History's Mysteries, also by W.C. Jameson. The Return of the Outlaw, Billy the Kid by W.C. Jameson. It's an interesting topic, and once you get into it, I think you'll be convinced. That's it for this episode. We'll see you next time on The Shadow Frequency.
That's all for tonight's episode of The Shadow Frequency. I'm Juniper, thanking you for joining us as Matt Wilson peeled back the layers of Brushy Bill Roberts and his claim to be Billy the Kid. Did the outlaw outwit history itself? We'll let you decide. Until next time, keep your ears tuned to the shadows, and good night.